In For Honor, there's a tier list myself I follow personally when it comes to heroes. Normally, the higher up the tier equals the more updates, and the higher the hero is in the meta. The tiers I use are Meta, Just There, and Completely Forgotten. The meta tier would be filled with, who you'd expect. Ocelotl, VG, Orochi, etc, etc. If you want to hear me talk about the meta, go watch my last video. In the Just There tier, we have heroes like Warden, Raider, Griffin. This tier is mainly for heroes that are just good in their own reasons, but don't see much love from the balance team, except for Warden. Stop edging! Show me! Show me! And Completely Forgotten is a barren wasteland for heroes like Nusha, Gonk, and Jorm. Lawbringer would go here too, but seeing as the devs just gave him a new chain, I would bump him into the Just There tier. I've already talked about Gonk and Nusha in their own videos respectively. Now we can tackle the hero that I haven't seen a change in years. Out of all characters in the roster, Jormungandr is probably the most changed hero compared to his day one counterpart, and we're going to talk all about it. Jorm was released on August 1st of 2019, part of the Harbingers group of DLC characters, and before the heroes released, people already had problems with them. While it was rumored that we were going to get a new hero with a hammer, the community cheered thinking it was going to be some sort of two-handed warhammer. Then the DLC trailer dropped, and people saw this thing. The For Honor community was not happy. But how is this gameplay? Well, the most important thing about Jorm was his uniqueness in his own way. Now, looking back at old Jorm, it was very, very, very conflicting, to say the least. Jorm was For Honor's first dedicated stamina bully. I say dedicated because there were so many heroes that had built-in stamina drain and pause. Warden, Blackbriar, and JJ were the biggest names when it came to being stamina bullies, with Warden's Bash, BP's Zone, and JJ's Choke doing insane amounts of stamina damage and pausing stamina regen on top of it.
Harder, Daddy. What? What?
But what old Jorm had was a special gimmick, where if his opponent was out of stamina and became unbalanced, he would lunge towards them with a Hyper Armor Heavy and become one of For Honor's best memes. There were many ways old Jorm could get you out of stamina. His throws did stamina damage, he had a whole bash dedicated where he would lunge towards you and grab you and only do stamina damage, and on top of that, once you're out of stamina, his unblockable became an unbalanced tool, kinda like Glad Skewer. This is where Jorm's special out of stamina combos came to be. See, normally when your opponent gets off balance, he goes flying in the direction you threw him. But if you were too close to him, they're say near a wall, you can chain a light into a bash over and over and over again, and the opponent could do literally nothing about it. Newer For Honor players did not have to deal with the hell that was being out of stamina before these stamina changes. See, new For Honor, you get knocked down, you get back up. Full stamina bar, yippee. But old For Honor, oh no, you had to fully regen the bar. Pair this with stamina pause, and sometimes being out of stamina was just a literal fucking death sentence. And on top of that, old Jorm's feats were out of fucking control. I think Jorm's feats have to be the fastest thing I've ever seen nerfed in the entirety of For Honor's lifetime. His first feat heals only when Jorm drains stamina from his opponents. On launch, this healed way too much, so people complained, UBISOFT nerfed. Jorm's second feat gave him a 50 HP shield when he successfully landed a Hammer Slam. This shield lasted longer than the fucking Kin State Dynasty, so people complained, UBISOFT nerfed. So after all of this talk about infinite chains, high damage gimmicks, stamina bully, insane feats, Jorm had to be this insane hero, right? Well, no. It really depends who you ask. If you ask an old Jorm main, they would say he was perfect in the way he was, and this new Jorm's a piece of garbage. But if you ask me, old Jorm really wasn't very amazing, and honestly kind of just unhealthy for the game. Let me ask you a simple question. If a character punishes you for using stamina, what is the best counter to said hero? Doing nothing. Yes, exactly. This basically forced every single fight with a Jorm to boil down to this. If I attack him, I'm putting myself at a higher risk of taking a shit ton of damage. So people that thought like this and didn't want their nuts ground to a fucking fine paste, turtle. This caused frustration on both sides. On the Jorm side, his opponent refused to attack him, and at the other end, his opponent could play the game to avoid Jorm's gimmick. Gee, I wonder who else has a gimmick you can avoid by turtling. And this was the state of Jorm for about, 4 years? Over time, Ubisoft handed him nerf after nerf after nerf. Whether this be his feats, his damage, his stamina damage, if it existed, it got nerfed. But all of that changed around March of 2023 when Jorm had his first ever rework, and to call it a rework does not give it justice. This was a whole new character on the roster. This rework took a lot of things out of Jorm, like his unique neutral bash that didn't confirm any damage, hyper armor on Hammer Slam, and the unbalanced effect on his unblockables, but added a lot of stuff at the exact same time. See, the only way old Jorm was able to get a Hammer Slam on an enemy was getting them out of stamina and unbalancing them, or playing with Synergies, which I'll talk about later. But Ubisoft thought that this was an unhealthy way to play the game, that if you had to get the max punish, you needed to get them out of stamina. So For Honor gave him a new move, a bash that unbalanced heroes that was in his mid chain. In my opinion, this is the most threatening bash in the game. They also took a look at his guard break punishes. On light attack, Jorm now does a damaging bash that can be followed up with a confirmed light attack or a throw into a nearby wall. Or if you don't have enough time for that, you can throw a heavy attack that does very low damage that unbalances opponents and sends them into walls or ledges. To be completely honest, I am not much of a fan of his heavies, normally because I'm trying to get a kill after a guard break, but my monkey brain tells me just hit the side heavy button, so it's a skill issue on my end, I guess. They also had to speed up his hammer slam animation to compensate with it losing its hyper armor. See, now that old Jorm can access his unbalancing bash, while their opponents still had stamina, they needed to find a middle ground, and I think Ubisoft did a really good job finding it. They gave Jorm completely new light attack animations because the old ones were so goddamn slow and clunky. I think a dead fish on a keyboard could land a light parry on old Jorm. To add on, they remade Jorm's zone attack and gave it new properties. Probably my second favorite move in his entire arsenal. On neutral, he throws a fast-hitting zone attack that can chain into every move in his kit, but the move changes properties when you use it mid-chain. Once used in mid-chain, the zone gains hyper armor and a feintable property, and it slows down. This tool can be a great defensive option after whiffing an attack to instantly give your opponent a nice big fuck you for trying to punish you. And speaking for good offense and defensive tools, we gotta talk about his forward dodge heavy. This is my favorite move in his kit for one reason: option selects. Now I know option selects don't actually exist, but I call it that because it's an option that beats guard breaks and counters moves because of its fast hyper armor. Sent has the same tool with his Eagle's Pounce. What I found very funny about making this video is that the Synergies and Jorm go hand in hand. We all know about the Synergies like PK Shaman and Ibushi, but Jorm Synergies are with like half the fucking roster. Valk Sweep, Highlander Caber Toss, Centurion Level 3 Punch, Shaolin Sweep, Conqueror Running Attack, BP Bulwark Flip, Raider Stampede Charge, Glide Out of Stamina Toe Stab, Lawbringer Long Arm, Tiandi Kick, Hitakiri Sweep. Every single one of these moves I just listed will guarantee Jorm gets a Hammer Slam. Some have tighter windows like Conqueror and BPs, but it is 100% possible with some communication. Now, I am no Jorm main. If anything, I maybe have 5 reps in old Jorm and 1 rep in new Jorm, but old Jorm was a cancer to the game, and not only was he cancer, he just wasn't good at the end of the day. While new Jorm lost its old identity, he is miles more viable and way more fun, but I think that's why Jorm mains are so complacent on saying they preferred old Jorm. Old Jorm was around for about 4 years. That's a long time for someone to play and enjoy their hero, flaws and all. If anything, when they succeed with a bad hero, it gives them this sense of pride. So when Ubisoft took their beloved hero and made a generic one, I can see why your mains gave up on their hero to go play something else. You signed up to play this hero, and then Ubisoft yoinked it from you and gave you something you didn't want instead. Could they have handled Jorm differently? I mean, probably. In all honesty, they never should have released Jorm in the state he was in. If anything, we should see a pattern with heroes that rely on gimmicks and always dooming to fail. Nusha, Old Jorm, Sohei, all characters that struggle because without their gimmick, they're not much of a hero at all. As always, if you made it this far, I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.